Captain Aaron Vance adjusted his visor as he walked along the crowded docking bay of the Arvon station. Ships of all sizes hummed softly, their engines glowing faintly under the artificial lights. Humans and aliens moved alongside one another, each speaking their own language, yet somehow understanding each other through universal translators. It was a place of commerce, diplomacy, and sometimes danger. Aaron knew danger well. He had been called to Arvon Station on what was supposed to be a simple diplomatic mission: escort the visiting alien princess, Lyara, safely during her short stay. She was the daughter of Queen Thelina, the ruler of the Lyran Empire, civilization known for its towering cities, advanced technology, and strict hierarchy. Aaron did not care much for politics. He cared about protecting people. And today, that mission would test him like never before. The princess's ship landed smoothly, silver hull reflecting the soft glow of the docking lights. Guards and diplomats waited, their expressions a mixture of respect and tension. Aaron, tall and steady, stood apart, scanning the crowd. His instincts were sharp. He had been trained to notice threats that others could not see. Lyara stepped out of her ship, graceful and poised, her skin shimmering with a faint, iridescent glow. She carried herself with the confidence of a royal, but her eyes held a spark of curiosity, perhaps even excitement. Aaron had no doubt that beneath the elegance, she was just as human, just as vulnerably as any other person he had protected. Suddenly a loud alarm blared. Lights flickered as a group of rogue aliens, clad in dark armor, burst through the docking bay entrance. They moved fast, their weapons raised. Panic erupted. Aliens and humans alike screamed and ran for cover. Aaron didn't hesitate. He saw the rogue leader point directly at the princess. The energy weapon in his hand glowed with deadly intensity. In that instant, Aaron made his choice. He stepped forward, placing himself between the princess and the weapon's beam. The blast hit him squarely, knocking him off his feet. Sparks flew and smoke filled the air. His armor absorbed much of the impact, but he felt the sting of pain radiating through his body. He pushed himself up, refusing to let the attackers reach Lyara. The princess froze for a moment, her eyes wide with shock. Aaron could see the fear in her gaze, but also a flicker of something else: gratitude. Perhaps awe. The rogues advanced, swinging strange, jagged weapons. Aaron blocked and dodged, each movement precise. He was strong, trained, and determined. Every time an enemy aimed for the princess, he absorbed the blow. Sometimes it was energy, sometimes it was physical, but Aaron refused to falter. "Stay back," he shouted. "I won't let them touch her." The docking bay erupted into chaos. Merchants and travelers scrambled, some ducking behind crates, others trying to flee to the safety of their ships. The rogue aliens were relentless, but Aaron's presence alone forced them to focus on him. Every strike he blocked, every blast he absorbed, gave the princess a chance to escape. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the station's security forces arrived. Drones swooped down, laser beams cutting through the rogues' ranks. The attackers panicked, realizing they were outnumbered. They retreated, disappearing into the far corners of the docking bay. The remaining energy weapons sparked and fizzled. Leaving only smoke and the scent of scorched metal. Aaron sank to one knee, breathing heavily. His armor was scorched, several panels dented, but he had done what he came to do. Lyara rushed to him, her steps quick and graceful, and gently placed her hands on his shoulder. "You saved me," she said, her voice soft but steady. "You risked your life for me?" Aaron forced a small smile. "Just part of the job," he said, though his voice betrayed the pain. "I couldn't let anyone hurt you." Her eyes lingered on him, and for a moment, the world outside, the chaos, the crowd, the docking, based to vanish. She had never met a human like him before, someone so brave, so selfless. The station medics arrived quickly, attending to Aaron's injuries. They checked him for burns, bruises, and energy shock. He winced as they probed the deeper injuries, but he didn't complain. He had survived, and more importantly, the princess was safe. Queen Thelina arrived shortly after, her presence commanding attention. She was tall, regal, and radiated authority. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, fell on Aaron immediately. She had heard the reports the human who had risked everything for her daughter. Curiosity flared in her expression, mixed with something deeper that she had not yet understood. "Who is this human?" she asked, her voice calm but demanding. "He is Captain Aaron Vance," a royal guard replied. "He saved Princess Liara from the rogue attackers." The Queen's eyes studied him, taking in his stance, his injuries, and the faint determination that lingered in his gaze. She noticed the calm in his demeanor despite the chaos he had endured. Most humans would have panicked. Most humans would have fled. But this one? He had stood firm. Thelina moved closer, her presence alone commanding respect. "You put yourself between my daughter and death," she said quietly. "Why?" Aaron looked up at her, his voice steady, despite his exhaustion. "Because it was the right thing to do? Anyone in danger deserves protection." The Queen's expression softened for just a moment, though her eyes remained sharp. It was rare for anyone to speak with such honesty and courage. She had seen many warriors, many diplomats, many skilled humans, but none like him. Liara, still standing beside him, looked at her mother. He risked his life for me, Mother," she said, her voice filled with awe. The Queen's gaze flicked between her daughter and Aaron. Something was awakening in her. A mixture of curiosity, admiration, and perhaps the faint stirrings of respect. She had rules, duties, and responsibilities, but this human, he had captured her attention in a way no one else had. Aaron was helped to his feet and escorted to a medbay for further treatment. The princess followed him closely, staying near, offering quiet reassurances. The Queen watched them both, her mind racing with questions. How could one human show such bravery? What made him different from the others she had encountered? And more importantly, what role would he play in the lives of her daughter, and perhaps the entire Laran Empire? As Aaron received care, he remained aware of the Queen's gaze. He did not understand it yet, but he felt its weight. There was a story here, a bond forming, that he could not yet name. For now, he focused on recovery. On standing ready should danger arise again. Even as the medics worked, he glanced toward Liara, who smiled faintly at him. There was trust in that smile, an unspoken acknowledgement of what he had done. And in that moment, Aaron understood something simple yet profound. Courage was not about glory or reward. It was about protecting others, even if it meant standing alone. The docking bay, once chaotic, was now quiet. The rogue attackers were gone, but the ripples of the incident would not fade easily. Rumors spread through the station, whispers of the human who defied death for the princess. Some were skeptical, some impressed. But all could not ignore the truth. Aaron Vance had changed the course of the day and possibly the future of the Lyran Empire simply by standing firm. Queen. Thelina turned away finally. Her mind focused on more than just the incident. She would need to learn more about this human, this one who had risked his life for her daughter. The spark of curiosity had become a flame, one she could not ignore, and somewhere in the medbay, Aaron rested, unaware that the first threads of a bond one that could change his life forever were already forming between him, the princess and the alien queen. The galaxy had tested him once. It would test him again. But Aaron Vance was ready. Aaron Vance lay on the medbay table, still recovering from the energy blasts and physical blows he had taken while shielding. Princess Liara. The medics moved efficiently, checking his vitals, adjusting his armor's internal supports, and applying soothing gels to burns and bruises. Despite the pain, Aaron kept one eye on the room's doorway. He had learned long ago that danger often arrived when one least expected it. The door hissed open, and a figure entered without the usual fanfare. Queen Thelina's presence immediately changed the atmosphere in the room. She did not walk. She glided, almost floating above the polished floor, her robes shimmering like liquid silver. Her gaze fell upon Aaron with intensity, curious and calculating. "Captain Vance," she said, her voice calm but commanding, carrying a tone that demanded attention. "You have attracted much attention today." Aaron straightened slightly, trying to mask his fatigue. "Not my intention, Your Majesty. I only acted to protect the princess." Thelina's eyes narrowed slightly, studying him. "I do not doubt your skill or courage. Most humans would have fled. Most humans would have hesitated. Yet you stood between death and my daughter." She paused, tilting her head. "That is unusual." Aaron nodded, a faint smile forming despite his exhaustion. "I don't see courage as unusual. I see it as necessary when someone is in danger. Leora's life mattered more than my own in that moment." The queen regarded him silently for a long moment. Something stirred within her, a mixture of admiration, intrigue, and a question she could not yet name. She had ruled for decades, seen countless warriors and diplomats from countless species, yet few had demonstrated such selflessness. Few had risked everything without hesitation. "Your loyalty is commendable," she said finally, "but it also makes you interesting." Aaron tilted his head, slightly wary. He had been praised before, even recognized for heroic acts, but never had anyone spoken to him in this way, not with such intensity. "I don't mean to be interesting," he said. "I just do what I must." Thelina's lips curved into a faint smile, though her eyes remained serious. "Perhaps, but humans are unpredictable. And you, Captain Vance, have proven different." Meanwhile, Princess Liara remained close. Sitting nearby as medics attended to Aaron, her eyes flickered between him and her mother. She had always admired strength and bravery, but she had never expected to see it demonstrated so purely, so fearlessly. And she had never seen her mother speak to a human with such openness. Aaron allowed the queen to observe him. He did not fear scrutiny. He had faced it many times. Still, he felt the weight of her gaze, and it was unlike anything he had experienced. Thelina's observation was not casual. It was sharp, precise, and probing. "You will remain on Arvin Station for a time," the queen said, her tone now leaving no room for argument. "I wish to see more of your character, your choices, your humanity." Aaron raised an eyebrow. "You want to study me?" Thelina's smile deepened, but she gave no further explanation. "Consider it. Observation. For your own safety, as much as for mine." He nodded slowly. "Understood, Your Majesty. I will comply." For the next several days, Aaron moved through the palace under the queen's watchful eye. He trained with the guards, patrolled the city streets, and occasionally accompanied Liara during her public appearances. He noticed subtle glances from Thelina, moments when she would watch him without speaking. As though measuring every word, every action, Aaron was no stranger to attention. But the intensity of Thelina's observation was different. It was not curiosity alone. It was a deep, analytical focus. And yet it was not threatening. It was thoughtful. During one training session, Aaron sparred with a group of elite Liarn guards. His movements were fluid, precise, combining human instinct with military experience. Despite the aliens' advanced physiology, Aaron held his ground, deflecting blows and anticipating attacks. The queen watched from the observation balcony, silent, yet her presence was palpable. After the session, she descended to the training floor. Her robes shimmered as she walked toward him, and Aaron could see the subtle power she carried, not just in stature, but in presence. "Your skills are impressive," she said softly. "Yet your restraint is what interests me most. You could dominate, but you choose not to." Aaron wiped sweat from his brow. "I don't fight to dominate. I fight to protect. That is the measure of strength in my view." Thelina regarded him quietly. "A human philosophy, yet one I admire." She paused, her gaze lingering. "Most in my empire would have sought glory, reputation, or wealth. You do not." The words were not flattery. They were an observation, a truth she had noticed through careful scrutiny. Aaron had always acted out of principle, never for reward or recognition. That simple truth set him apart. Princess Liara approached then, her steps light. "Captain Vance, would you join me on a walk?" she asked. Her voice was gentle, yet carried authority. Aaron nodded. "Of course, Princess." They moved through the palace gardens, a spectacular place filled with glowing flora, bioluminescent vines, and fountains that shimmered in multiple colors. The air was fragrant with exotic blooms. The quiet was only broken by the distant hum of palace machinery. "Are you always so calm under pressure?" Liara asked, curiosity in her voice. "I mean, today you faced death and did not flinch." Aaron smiled faintly. "Calm is not always a choice. Sometimes it's necessity. Fear is natural, but courage is a choice." Liara nodded, thinking over his words. "I have seen many soldiers, many mercenaries, but none like you. You care. You risk yourself for others without hesitation."
Paragon
Shrugged. "Someone has to. If I do not act, no one else might. That is all there is to it." Liara glanced toward the palace towers. "Mother watches you. Often. Does that not bother you?" Aaron shook his head. "Curiosity is not a threat. Observation is not danger. I have nothing to hide." Liara smiled faintly. "I suppose that is why she has taken such an interest in you. You are honest, in ways humans often are not, and strong in ways we rarely see." As they returned to the palace, Aaron felt a subtle shift in the air. The queen's presence lingered, even when she was not visible. He knew she was thoughtful, weighing his every action, his every word. And though he did not yet understand it fully, he realized that his choices mattered here, more than he had expected. That evening, as Aaron rested in the quarters assigned to him, a message arrived from Queen Thelina. It was simple. "Meet me at the observation tower at first light. We have much to discuss." Aaron read the note carefully. He had expected orders, instructions, or perhaps a debriefing. But a personal invitation? That was unusual. It indicated trust, yes, but also curiosity. And perhaps something more subtle. When the first rays of the alien sun touched the city the next morning, Aaron made his way to the observation tower. The queen was already there, gazing out over the sprawl of the city, the sunlight reflecting off her robes like liquid silver. "Captain Vance," she said without turning, "you have proven your skill, your courage, and your loyalty. But there is more to a human than strength. I wish to understand your mind, your heart, your principles." Aaron nodded. "I am willing to answer your questions, Your Majesty. If it helps you understand, I will do my best." Thelina finally turned to face him. Her eyes held intensity, but also a rare softness. "You are unusual, human. I see in you qualities I respect, and perhaps even desire. That is dangerous, in ways you may not yet understand." Aaron met her gaze evenly. "Danger is part of life. I have faced it before, and I will again. If my presence helps protect your daughter or your people, I accept it." The queen's lips curved into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "Very well. Then we shall see what this human heart is capable of, and whether it belongs here, among us, or perhaps with me." Aaron understood little of what she meant, yet the weight of her words was clear. He was no longer merely a mercenary or protector. He had stepped into a world of politics, emotion, and expectation far beyond anything he had encountered. And somewhere in that complexity, he realized that his choices, his courage, and his humanity would shape not just the princess's life, but the future of an entire alien empire. The morning sun cast long golden rays across the alien city, reflecting off the silver towers of the Lyran Palace. Captain Aaron Vance stood on the observation balcony, overlooking the city below. From here, everything looked peaceful, orderly, even safe. But Aaron knew better. Danger rarely arrived announced with fanfare. He had been on the planet for several days now, training with the Lyran guards, observing court routines, and accompanying Princess Liara on her walks through the city. He had grown used to the queen's watchful presence and the subtle scrutiny of her advisors. Yet, despite the calm, a sense of unease lingered in his mind, a whisper of warning he could not ignore. It arrived sooner than expected, a loud, distorted alarm echoed across the city. The palace shook as warning lights flashed red. Aaron's instincts immediately kicked in. He grabbed his weapon and sprinted toward the palace interior, moving faster than most humans could. The corridors were chaotic, with guards rushing to their stations, civilians seeking shelter, and alarms wailing without pause in the throne room. Queen Thelina and Princess Liara were safe, but clearly tense. Advisors shouted orders, but their voices barely registered over the blaring alarms. "Captain Vance," Thelina called. "The princess has been taken." Aaron's heart clenched. His mind went immediately to action. Who? How? The rogue faction? "They struck while we were distracted," Liara shouted. She stopped, her hands trembling. Aaron grabbed her arm gently. "I will get her back," he said firmly. "Stay here. Stay safe." Without hesitation, he sprinted toward the palace gates, the Queen's guards trailing behind him. The rogue aliens had already fled into the caverns that surrounded the palace city ancient. Tunnels rumored to contain relics and artifacts of great power. Few dared to enter them, and fewer returned. But Aaron did not hesitate. He descended into the cavern entrance. The dim light reflecting off his armor, revealing every detail of his tense expression. The tunnels were narrow and treacherous, lined with jagged rocks and unstable surfaces. He moved carefully, but quickly. Every step measured. Every sound noted. Then he heard it. Faint cries echoing through the tunnels. Liara's voice. "Princess." He called. His pulse quickened. She answered, her voice trembling but clear. "Aaron, help." Aaron moved faster, navigating through traps that had been set deliberately. Razor-sharp wires stretched across hallways. Explosive mines glimmered faintly in the shadows. But he avoided them, relying on human ingenuity, sharp instincts, and years of battlefield experience. Suddenly, a group of rogue aliens appeared, blocking his path. They were armed, fierce, and clearly expecting him. They believed they could intimidate a human, underestimate him, and leverage Liara as their bargaining chip. Aaron did not hesitate. He moved with precision, striking quickly and strategically. He avoided unnecessary harm, incapacitating his attackers rather than killing them outright. Every move was calculated, every action deliberate. The rogues quickly realized that he was no ordinary human. They had misjudged him. As he pressed deeper into the caverns, the air grew cooler, damp, and heavy with the scent of mineral dust. Strange, bioluminescent fungi glowed faintly on the walls, illuminating the path ahead. Aaron's focus was absolute. Lyra's safety was the only thing that mattered. Finally, he reached a chamber where the rogue leader had cornered the princess. Liara was bound by glowing restraints that seemed to react to her life force. The leader, a tall, imposing alien with scarred armor, raised his weapon menacingly. "You should have stayed away, human," the rogue growled. "This is not your fight." Aaron's eyes narrowed. "It is my fight if it involves her life," he said. His stance was steady, ready, unyielding. The leader laughed, a low, grating sound. "Humans are weak. You cannot survive this." Aaron moved faster than the leader anticipated, closing the distance in an instant. He used the environment to his advantage, dodging energy blasts and deflecting strikes. He struck with precision, aiming to disarm, to neutralize, not to kill. Each move revealed not just physical skill, but a calm mind under pressure. Liara watched in awe as Aaron fought. She had always admired courage, but what she saw now went beyond anything she had imagined. He was clever, strong, and selfless, willing to risk everything for her safety. Her heart pounded with a mix of fear and admiration. Aaron reached her, quickly disabling the restraints with a small device he carried. "You're safe now," he said, cutting through her panic with steady words. "Follow me." Together they moved through the tunnels, the rogue faction in disarray after Aaron's precise strikes. The leader attempted a final ambush, but Aaron anticipated it. Using the cavern walls to gain leverage and disarm him with a swift maneuver, the rogue was incapacitated, and the rest fled into the shadows. Exiting the caverns, Aaron and Liara emerged into the daylight where the Queen's guards were waiting. They had been tracking the situation, prepared to intervene if necessary. But Aaron had already done what most thought impossible. He had rescued the princess alone. Liara turned to him, eyes shining. You saved me again. Aaron shook his head, a faint smile on his lips. I told you, it's my job to protect you. Nothing more. Queen Thelina arrived at that moment, her presence commanding as always. Her gaze fell on Aaron, taking in his injuries, his calm, and the quiet authority he exuded even after such a dangerous mission. She had witnessed his courage, his intelligence, and his loyalty. You have proven yourself. Extraordinary, she said, her voice calm, but heavy with meaning. Not only in strength, but in heart. You are. Unlike any human I have met. Aaron met her gaze steadily. I do what I must. That is all anyone can do. The queen's eyes softened slightly, though her mind raced. Humans were unpredictable, fragile in many ways. Yet Aaron had demonstrated qualities that were rare even among the strongest Lyrans: courage, loyalty, and a steadfast sense of duty. He had risked his life for another without hesitation, without thought of reward or recognition. That was what made him exceptional. Liara stepped forward, placing a hand on her mother's arm. Mother, he saved me. He risked everything. He is remarkable. Thelina's gaze lingered on Aaron, then shifted to her daughter. Indeed, she said softly. Remarkable and perhaps more important than we realized. For Aaron, there was no time to linger on praise or admiration. He helped Liara to her feet, ensured she was safe, and allowed the queen's guards to guide them back to the palace. Yet he sensed the subtle shift in the queen's demeanor. Her interest was no longer purely political or cautious. It was personal, probing, and unexpectedly deep. As the palace doors closed behind them, Alzan allowed himself a brief moment of rest. The caverns had been dangerous, the rogue faction relentless, but he had succeeded. He had acted as any protector would, but in doing so, he had also demonstrated something far more profound: the strength of humanity. Courage, loyalty, and selflessness, qualities that the queen now valued above all else. That evening, as the city settled into quiet after the day's chaos, Aaron sat in his quarters. Lyra's words echoed in his mind. You are remarkable. He had no desire for praise, yet he understood the weight of his actions. He had proven himself not only to the princess, but to the queen as well, outside. The queen observed from her balcony, silent and thoughtful. Aaron's actions had revealed not only his skill, but his character. She understood now that the human could not simply be dismissed, studied, or observed from afar. His presence had consequences both for her daughter and for herself, and in that realization, a new plan began to form in her mind. One that would test not only Aaron's loyalty, but his heart. Aaron, unaware of the queen's deep thoughts, allowed himself a brief smile. Danger had come and gone, but he was ready for whatever came next. He had faced impossible odds, saved a princess, and earned the quiet respect of a queen. Yet he sensed that his journey was far from over. The galaxy had many challenges ahead, and he would face them with the same courage, loyalty, and humanity that had brought him this far. The rogue faction might have thought him weak, a human incapable of standing against them. They had been wrong. Aaron Vance had shown that courage was not measured by size, strength, or speciesism, but by the choices one made when others' lives depended on it. And as Queen Thelina watched from above, she knew that this human, this protector, would play a role far greater than anyone had yet imagined. The test of loyalty was not over. It had only begun. The palace was alive with celebration. Lights shimmered across the towers, fountains glowed with color, and the streets were filled with music and laughter. Citizens had gathered to honor Captain Aaron Vance, the human who had risked his life to save Princess Liara. Banners waved in the wind, showing symbols of courage and gratitude, and everywhere Aaron looked he could see admiration and awe. Yet, despite the grandeur, he remained focused. This was not a parade for him. It was a reminder of responsibility. People looked to him as a protector, as someone dependable, and he could not take that lightly. Aaron walked with the princess beside him, keeping his eyes alert, his mind attentive to any unusual movements. Liara was radiant, Yet her steps were careful, aware of the whispers that followed them. "Aaron," she said softly, "everyone is praising you. Do you feel proud?" Aaron shook his head. "I don't act for praise," he said. "I act because it is right. That is all I need." She smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting warmth and gratitude. "You are truly remarkable, Aaron. I wish everyone could see courage like yours." Before Aaron could respond, Queen Thelina appeared, her presence commanding yet composed. The crowd instinctively parted, allowing her to walk gracefully toward them. Her robes glimmered like flowing starlight. Her eyes were fixed on Aaron. "You have done more than we could have hoped," she said, her voice calm but filled with subtle authority. "Not only did you save my daughter, but you also displayed strength and wisdom beyond what most humans are capable of." Aaron bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. "Your Majesty, I only did what was necessary. That is all any of us can do." Thelina studied him carefully. "Yet it is more than most would do. That is why I observe you so closely, and why I have taken an interest." Her words were deliberate, measured, but carried weight. Aaron felt the unspoken depth behind them, though he did not fully understand it yet. Liara glanced at her mother, then back at Aaron. "Mother, you are watching him carefully. Do you think he can belong here?" Thelina's gaze softened for a moment. "That is not a simple question, Liara. Belonging is earned through courage, loyalty, and understanding. He has demonstrated the first two. The third remains to be seen." Aaron listened, realizing that he had stepped into a world far more complex than he had imagined. His actions were no longer just his own, they carried meaning for the princess, the queen, and perhaps the empire itself. As the celebrations continued, Aaron found himself moving through the palace gardens with Liara, away from the crowds. The gardens were filled with glowing flowers, streams of water that reflected the sky above, and the soft hum of alien life. It was peaceful, a sharp contrast to the chaos of the earlier attack. "You have been through much," Adayonaliata said softly. "Yet you remain steady, calm, and unshaken. How do you do it?" Aaron glanced at her, considering his words carefully. "I focus on what matters most. In chaos, there is always fear. But fear can be managed if you know what is worth protecting. For me, that is your safety. That is what gives me purpose." Lyra's eyes reflected admiration. "You have a human heart, yet it feels larger than most. I have seen warriors, leaders, and fighters, but few possess your humility." Aaron shook his head. "Humility is not about avoiding praise. It is about remembering why you act. If you lose sight of that, courage becomes arrogance, and strength becomes recklessness." Liara was silent for a moment, taking in his words. She had never met anyone who thought so clearly, acted so decisively, yet spoke with such calm and wisdom. "You are extraordinary," she whispered. Their moment was interrupted by a soft, commanding voice. "Aaron." Both turned to see Queen Thelina approaching. She carried herself with her usual grace, yet there was a subtle tension in her eyes, a mixture of curiosity and concern. "You have been close to my daughter during the celebrations," she said. "Tell me, do you understand the responsibilities that come with being near royalty, near the line of succession?" Aaron met her gaze. "Yes, Your Majesty. I understand that my actions reflect not just on me, but on those I protect. I will not fail in that duty." Thelina studied him silently, then nodded. "Good. That is why I've decided that you will remain here for some time. Not as a guest, not merely as a protector, but as an integral part of our household. You will train, observe, and prepare yourself, because, Captain Vance, loyalty and courage alone may not be enough." Aaron's eyes narrowed slightly. "Prepare for what, Your Majesty?" Thelina's gaze lingered on him, intense and unreadable. "For the challenges that lie ahead. The rogue faction is not finished. There are others who wish to test our strength, our resolve, and our alliances. You will be part of that test. And part of our response?" Liara reached out, placing a gentle hand on Aaron's arm. "I trust you," she said softly. "You have proven yourself again and again, and you are always here when I need you." Aaron nodded, feeling a quiet warmth at her words. I will always be here. That is my promise. Queen's eyes softened ever so slightly. And that, Aaron Vance, is why you are becoming more than a protector. You are becoming part of something larger. Something that requires trust, understanding, and perhaps even more. Aaron glanced between Liara and the Queen, sensing the weight behind her words. There was a depth to this connection he had not anticipated. He was no longer just a soldier, no longer just a mercenary. He was part of a web of loyalty, trust, and growing bonds that spanned not just species, but hearts. The following days were filled with training, strategy meetings, and palace life under careful observation. Aaron learned the nuances of Loren politics, the subtleties of court etiquette, and the delicate balance required to protect the princess while earning the Queen's trust. He proved himself not just in combat, but in diplomacy, problem-solving, and leadership. Queen Thelina continued to watch him, sometimes silently from afar, sometimes engaging him directly. Their conversations grew longer, more personal, though always respectful and carefully measured. She tested him with questions about morality, loyalty, and choice, seeking to understand not only his mind, but his heart. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the palace, casting silver light across the gardens, Aaron found himself walking with Liara again. The city below was quiet, the celebration over, and only the soft hum of alien wildlife filled the air. You have changed much in these days, Aaron, Liara said softly. Not just in skill, but in presence. The Queen watches you closely. I can feel it, Aran nodded. I know, she is testing me. Not only my courage, but my character, my judgment. Liara smiled faintly. She admires you, perhaps more than you realize. Aaron glanced at her, careful not to show too much emotion. Admiration is different from duty. I am here to protect you and to serve as best I can. That is my focus. Liara reached out, her hand brushing his arm. You are more than duty, Aaron. You are part of our lives now? My life, and perhaps part of hers too. Aaron did not respond immediately. He understood the weight of her words. He had entered a world of royalty, politics, and expectation. But he had also entered a world of trust, admiration, and something far more personal. He felt the bond growing not just with Liara, but with her mother, the Queen. A bond that was rare, fragile, and powerful. As they returned to the palace, Thelina watched from a balcony above. Her expression was unreadable, yet her mind was active, calculating, and for the first time, uncertain in a new and unfamiliar way. She had encountered many humans, many warriors, and many allies, but none had stirred something within her like Aaron Vance. His courage, his loyalty, his humility, and his selflessness. They challenged her expectations and touched a part of her she rarely acknowledged. For Aaron, life had shifted once again. Danger had passed for now, but the challenges ahead were not yet clear. Bonds had been strengthened, trust had been earned, and respect had been gained. And in the quiet moments between duty and expectation, Aaron realized that his presence here, his choices, his actions, and his humanity had begun to matter in ways he had never imagined. He was no longer merely a protector. He was part of a family, part of an empire, and part of a story that would test his courage, loyalty, and heart more than anything he had faced before. The city was peaceful tonight, but tomorrow would bring new challenges. And Aaron Vance, human and unyielding, would face them as he always had, with courage, honor, and unwavering loyalty. The bond between him, Liara, and Queen Thelina had deepened, and no force in the galaxy could ignore what that bond now represented. The palace was calm, almost eerily so, in the early hours of dawn, but Aaron Vance did not rest. His instincts had never allowed him true peace. Even with the rogue faction driven away days earlier, he knew the galaxy was not kind, and danger rarely came announced. He trained silently in the palace courtyard, his movements precise, deliberate, and measured. Every strike, every block, Every maneuver honed his body for what he knew would come. He had learned much in the past weeks about the Lyran guards, the palace's layout, the city's defenses, and, perhaps most importantly, the people he had vowed to protect, Princess Liara and Queen Thelina. Suddenly, alarms blared across the palace. Red lights flashed, and the hum of the city's defense systems grew urgent. Aaron's heart clenched as he sprinted toward the command hall. Reports flooded in from sensors and scouts. A coalition of hostile alien factions had coordinated an attack on the palace. Their goal was clear: overthrow the queen and capture Liara to destabilize the empire. Aaron's mind went into action. Guards. He barked, rallying the Lyran forces, already mobilizing. Secure the princess. Hold the gates. We do not let them reach the palace interior. Thelina appeared beside him in the command hall, her presence calm and commanding, even in crisis. Aaron, she said, her voice steady, you have proven yourself before. Today, you will show the Empire what humans are capable of. Aaron nodded. I will not fail, Your Majesty. The princess and the Empire will be safe. The battle began with a thunderous roar. Alien warships breached the city perimeter, sending energy blasts across the streets. Raiders and mercenaries flooded the gates, their weapons aimed to destroy and conquer. But Aaron did not falter. He moved with speed, strength, and intelligence, directing guards, blocking paths, and intercepting attackers before they could reach the palace. He saw the first wave of enemies, attempting to flank the palace from the garden terraces. Without hesitation, he sprinted toward them, using his human agility to navigate the narrow walkways. His strikes were precise, disarming and incapacitating rather than killing whenever possible. Each move showcased not just physical strength, but tactical intelligence, a human mind that could anticipate, adapt, and overcome. From the command hall, Thelina observed his actions, her eyes sharp and calculating. Guards and advisors whispered about his bravery and skill, but she knew there was more. Courage alone did not make a hero. It was loyalty, honor, and the ability to inspire others that truly mattered. Aaron possessed all of it. Liara, hidden safely within the palace, watched through a secure viewport. Her heart raced as she saw him face overwhelming odds. Yet even in fear, there was pride. He was human, yet he had become more than that. He had become her protector, strength, and, in a way, her family. The battle reached the palace gates, where the fiercest clashes occurred. Aaron fought side by side with elite Lyran guards, coordinating defenses, redirecting attacks, and personally confronting the largest threats. One heavily armored alien charged him with a massive energy blade. Aaron dodged, parried, and used the enemy's momentum to send him crashing into the walls. Another attacker attempted a surprise strike from above, only to be caught by Aaron's quick reflexes. Amid the chaos, Aaron noticed the rogue faction leader from before trying to rally the attackers. Recognition flared. He moved swiftly, cutting through the guards blocking his path. Confronting the leader directly. You again, Aaron said, his voice calm but firm. It ends now. The leader lunged with desperation, but Aaron was ready. Using strategy and skill, he disarmed the rogue, incapacitated him, and ensured he could no longer command the attack. With their leader down, the remaining attackers faltered, retreating as the Lyran forces pressed forward. The city's defenses, guided by Aaron's leadership, began to gain the upper hand. Warships were repelled, raiders neutralized, and the palace was secured. The people cheered as the last of the attackers fled into the distance, breathing heavily. Aaron stood in the center of the courtyard, his armor scorched, bruised, and battered, yet intact. Guards and citizens alike looked to him with awe and gratitude. He had faced impossible odds, yet he remained steady, calm. And victorious Queen Thelina descended from her observation post, walking toward him with deliberate grace. Her eyes were intense, but there was warmth. There a mixture of respect, admiration, and something deeper she had not yet named. You have proven yourself beyond measure, she said softly, though her voice carried across the courtyard, not just in skill, but in courage, loyalty, and heart. You have protected the Empire when many would have faltered. And more than that, you have earned my trust. Aaron met her gaze steadily. Your Majesty, I only did what any protector would do. That is all I can ever offer. The Queen studied him silently, her expression thoughtful. Then she extended a handed gesture, both formal and intimate. Aaron Vance, I ask you, not as a ruler, but as someone who values your courage and your humanity. Will you remain by my side? Not merely as a protector, but as part of this family, part of this empire, part of our lives. Aaron blinked, taken aback. He had faced countless battles, terrifying dangers, and impossible missions. Yet the weight of these words struck him in a way nothing else had. He looked at Liara, standing close to her mother, her eyes wide and hopeful. He understood the depth of trust, respect, and expectation placed upon him. Slowly, he nodded. Yes, Your Majesty, I will remain. I will serve, protect, and be part of this family as long as you will have me. A faint smile crossed Thelina's lips, and her eyes softened. Then it is done. She glanced at Liara. And for you, my daughter, you have a protector who will not falter, who will always stand by your side. Liara ran forward, embracing Aaron briefly, her face filled with gratitude and relief. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. Aaron placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and reassuring. It is my honor, Princess, always. The citizens of the palace, witnessing the Queen's declaration and Aaron's acceptance, erupted in cheers. Humans and aliens alike marveled at the bond formed between a human and the ruling family of the Larin Empire. They had seen courage, loyalty, and humanity triumph over danger, and they understood that this bond represented something powerful, something rare, union of trust, respect, and mutual strength across worlds. As the sun set behind the palace towers, casting golden light over the city, Aaron stood beside Queen Thelina and Princess Liara. He was no longer just a human mercenary or protector. He was part of a family, part of an empire, part of a story that would be told for generations. Thelina placed a hand gently on his arm. Aaron, she said softly, your humanity, your courage, it has changed this empire, and it has changed me. You are not merely a protector. You are part of our lives, now and forever. Aaron met her gaze, steady and true. I will honor that trust, Your Majesty. I will not fail you, Liara, or this empire. Quiet calm settled over them. The galaxy had tested him, challenged him, and thrown danger in his path. But Aaron Vance had faced it all with courage, loyalty, and humanity. He had risked himself for another without hesitation, and in doing so, he had earned not only trust and respect, but a place in a world far larger than he had ever imagined. And as he looked out over the city, with the Queen and Princess at his side, Aaron understood a simple truth. Bravery is not about glory or recognition. It is about standing for others, about loyalty and courage, about the bonds that grow from selfless action. Tonight the Empire was safe. The Princess was protected, and the Queen had found a human worthy of standing beside her. Aaron smiled faintly, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. He was no longer alone, no longer an outsider. He was part of something greater, and in that moment, under the twin moons of the Lyron Empire, Captain Aaron Vance realized that he had not only survived the trials of the galaxy, he had found a home, a family, and a purpose that would endure forever. The galaxy could test him again. But now he faced the future not alone, but as part of a bond that no threat could break, a bond forged by courage, loyalty, and humanity, and sealed by the trust of a queen, the admiration of a princess, and the respect of an entire empire. Aaron Vance, human and unyielding, had finally found where he belonged.